Hello fantastic creatures, I'm Fantasims and welcome to my channel. In today's video we are going to explore some new, never before seen debug objects that you can use in your builds and they won't be flagged as custom content. Okay, now those of you who know me, you know I don't like to use custom content because I like to be able to share my builds with everyone. But I'm not opposed to using mods that help you build, like Twisted Mexy's tool mod and now Arnie's World edit mod. So if you go to his website on Patreon, and his latest mod that he just came out with before Christmas is this World edit mod. Just click on the download World edit and some very detailed and helpful instructions will pop up. Now something I recommend that you do is make up a backup folder of all your tray files. I just open up Finder on my Mac, go into Documents, Electronic Arts, The Sims 4, and then I just right click and I copy tray and I paste it to my desktop, and that way whenever I install or move mods around, I've never had a problem, but just in case I have a backup of all my builds, so that's really important. Now when you go into your world map area, you'll see that Newcrest now has a different logo, and if you click on Newcrest, you'll see it's been split in two. Here's the original map, although it's been tweaked by Arnie. It actually looks a lot cooler than the original one. And here is the new open world area where you can build up the entire world yourself. We're not going to get into that, like I said, because I'm focusing on all of the debug objects for this video. Alright, now with the new camera angle that comes with this mod, you can see from really far away. You can see the entire world and you can zoom in really close. So in order to actually find the objects, you're going to have to be in live mode, so you're going to have a sim on the lot. And just like the tool mod, you'll shift click on the ground and you're going to click the world edit button. And we're going to go to world decor, create world object, and you get this massive menu of all the debug objects. Now it includes all debug objects that you usually find with the show live edit objects cheat and the show hidden objects cheat as well, but it also contains a ton of debug objects that we've never seen before, so Arnie has unlocked them. So you just click on the object you want and it will place it wherever you clicked it on the ground. Now you can use, if you have tool mod installed, you can use tool mod to move things around, or you can go over into build mode and move the object that way. Now one thing that really bums me out, and this is not Arnie's fault at all, is that some of these debug objects, like all these Journey to Batu ones, they look so cool and I could see myself using them for like an African castle because I'm trying to build the wizarding school in Africa from Harry Potter, and I thought, oh, these are so perfect because the school is built in the side of an African mountain, and so these textures and objects we could use for architecture are so awesome, but for some reason you can't save them. So if I try to save this room here, you'll see it shows up as having nothing in the room, and if you try to save it as a lot, it will show all the objects up, but when you go to place it from your library, there will be no objects. So unfortunately there are a ton of really cool objects like this that just can't be used, which is such a bummer, but I'm thinking it might be because these objects don't have a footprint at all, so the game just doesn't register it when you try and put it on a lot or something. I don't know. Now as you can see by this crazy lot, I just went through and found everything that I didn't recognize and put it all on one lot. So it looks a bit chaotic, but we are going to dig into some of these really cool objects. But before we do, sometimes when you choose objects from the catalog, they don't seem to have a footprint that you can click on, but they end up really far away in the world. Let me go over into tab camera mode so we can kind of have a look around and see. When I clicked on when I chose some of the objects, they ended up in the sky and I have no way of pulling them down. It's a shame because some of these things like that bridge, those arches are so cool. But unfortunately they are way off in the distance, and that's probably because when the Sims team were creating the world around, they're probably using the same kind of grid system and they need some of the objects to be really far off in the distance, like mountains and stuff like that. So some of the objects can be a bit tricky, and what I would recommend if you're working on a build and you're trying to add objects and you're not sure if the object is going to do that, I recommend always clicking on the same area of the floor in live mode when you're choosing the objects like this. like I showed you before, create world objects, and you're looking through the menu and you're adding something, I would always click on the same spot off to the side, just in case you end up with these objects that are in the sky, because once they're there you can't move them, and if you're already working on a build, it's going to ruin your entire build. That way you can always move the lot. See how there's this huge cluster of objects, and most of the objects right here are those ones that are floating in the sky. And so let's say my build was over to this side, I could actually move the entire lot and delete those sky objects that I can't find the footprint for. Now again, those issues are not Arnie's fault, that's just the way the debug menu is. Even regular debug menu that we normally access, there are some debug objects that are just glitchy, or they end up creating objects a real far distance away as well. So now that we've got those difficulties out the way, let's dig into these objects. I did a pack review of Eco Lifestyle, and one of the things I said I really wish that they put in the debug menu were these cranes. I'm always trying to create post-apocalyptic, industrial type stuff, so we've got all these really cool industrial objects. And there's a blue version here too, and then we've got this scaffolding that comes with like a little weight. Then we've got these bridges, and these are all from different packs, so it does depend what packs you own. And then we've got things like these roads. I've sized most of this stuff down so that it can fit on the lot. And we've got new water features like this waterfall, which when you go over into live mode, you can see the water running down, and we get this water wheel as well that spins. And none of this stuff will get flagged as custom content if you use them in your builds. I've gone through Arnie's debug menu quite extensively, but I've probably missed some objects as well. We've got this cool gateway, all of these industrial objects, a ton of bridges, a ton of new bridges that we can use. And then these are really cool. There's a ton of these cool water features from Island Living. And again, in live mode, you'll see the water running down the rock, which is really cool. Now, my favorite architectural detail is always arches. So there's all these really cool bridges and objects that you can use to create that arch shape in your architecture. And some of these are kind of funky shaped, like this is sized down really tiny. It's supposed to be like, I think like this big. I think this might be from Eco Lifestyle. It's the dam, so it probably has water that runs down it in the set dressing. And then we've got this really cool castle piece from Get Together. And then there's all of these backdrops that you can use. Again, I've scaled these down to be a lot tinier. I think this is probably from City Living, but you can use this as a backdrop for a build. Like if you're doing a cyberpunk build or you're making an urban city, you can use this in the back. And the great thing is they're invisible from behind. Well, this one kind of has a three-dimensional shape, but they're invisible from behind. So if you need to be able to look inside a building and not be obstructed, it won't obstruct your view. I also really love this planet. I don't know whether it's a moon or it's supposed to be another planet, but it's really cool. And then we've got like this galactic mist. I actually made it a lot smaller because it's supposed to be really big, but that makes it go off into further in the background, which is fine. And then this one is really cool, but it's really hard to find the footprint. So I've actually uploaded most of this stuff as rooms. If you go to my gallery, it's supposed to be fantasims, but the gallery keeps calling me Simspiration84, which is my old name, which is super annoying. So I'll try and get that fixed. But as you can see here, I've already organized most of these objects into rooms that you can download. We've got all these cool pipes that you can use for your steampunk builds. This really cool ship. Here's one of the rock formations from Island Living, and again it's got this flowing waterfall, and it is massive. But the great thing about this object is, even though it's bigger than a 64 by 64 lot, the footprint, as you can see, that little green square, is 1. So you could even put this on a 20 by 15 lot if you wanted to. And I just rotated with Twisted Mexie's tool mod 1 on the side so that in the gallery you can kind of see what it looks like from the top. Right here. And there's also this really cool terrain. Now it's supposed to be the size of an entire world. I used Twisted Mexie's tool mod to size things down to make it more usable on a regular lot size, but technically I think this in its original size is like this big because it's supposed to be like the mountains you see in the background of a world. Now I just want to point out that in the gallery the water wheel, that wooden water wheel, doesn't seem to show up in the image, but if you place it you'll see the water wheel right there, and you can use that in so many cool builds, and the wood texture is just really cool. Okay, so I've laid out just a handful of the different objects that we've never seen before, and there's even some sim statues. I wish there were more of these. I don't know where they're from, their base game. I think they're base game anyway. And they've got all this cool detail. So you can put some townies in. I mean, the toddlers look a bit creepy. Again, it would have been cool if they had even more Sims that you could put throughout your world, but it's still cool that we even have these ones. And then here's a better look at this castle. Now, again, full size, it's probably supposed to be like that big, but you could use this as the top of a castle you're building, and it's going to add so much cool architectural detail. And you can even use the new platform tool to maybe elevate a platform underneath this area, and because the footprint is, I'm pretty sure the footprint is probably only like one tile, that means that it's not going to interfere with your Sim's path, so you really could build around this as well and build buildings on top of this level here, add your own towers to it, so there's a lot of stuff you can do. And then there's these really cool arches, I think from Get Together, but I've been wanting castle arches and I've been trying to create my own with the tool mod, but here are some that you can already use and they're nice and three-dimensional. I mean, you'll have to hide the sides because it goes invisible. Let's just check. In live mode, sometimes things disappear. I've noticed ever since Journey to Batu, items disappear even more when you get close. Oh no, good. This is one that you can get close to and it's not going to disappear so easily. Now these funky things kind of look like circuit boards, but they are actually street maps. And in their original size, they're like that big because that's the roads in the world. I don't know what world this is from, but these areas are like where houses are supposed to be. But I included them because, I don't know, you can always use it for some sort of landscaping, or if you're coming up with a weird futuristic design, I don't know. And they can be rotated with tool mod. And then here we have these really cool Mayan towers with like a gem on top that you can use in your builds. And then I'm actually really excited about this collection over here. I think this is all base game and this is supposed to be a lot bigger, but I love it because they all have the same color scheme, so you can use them together in a build and they've got that cool grungy finish to them. And this stuff can be rotated with tool mods, so you can come up with some really cool looking stuff. And then I love the objects from Journey to Batu, and this is an extra tank from that pack, and I just love the details on this, so I'm going to be using this object a lot. And then lastly, I'll just show you, there's a ton of these set dressing backdrops that you can put to fill out the back of your build. Like if you want it to look like there's a lush forest behind the house that you've built, instead of having a ton of three-dimensional trees maybe cluttering up the area too much, because you know how like branches can end up cutting into your build. Well, if you use these behind your builds, you get the effect of it being in a wooded area without taking up a ton of room. And then there's these massive ones from, I believe, probably Jungle Adventure because it looks like a jungle. And then there's some snowy ones as well, rocks and grass. So there's just a ton of really cool objects. Alright, now I'm giving you a sneak peek into a speed build that is going to be coming up. I did build most of it without Arnie's debug objects, but as you can see here, I'm starting to include some of those really cool new debug objects that we have access to. And here's an example inside where I used one of these new debug objects as kind of a frame for the shelving area. I won't show you anymore, else I'll spoil the speed build. And then here's an Arctic space base that I started to build using some of these objects that I just showed you, like this road, these objects over here, and then that really cool metal archway. I just wanted to play around with those new objects. I'm still working on that one. And there you go. I just wanted to make you builders aware of this new incredible mod and how it unlocks all of these really cool debug objects that you can play around with and add to your own builds. I'll put a link in the description below to Arnie's YouTube channel because he actually has a detailed video going through the open world feature, which is the main point of this mod. If you like this video, be sure to give it an encouraging thumbs up, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified about fresh content. As always, I love you guys so freaking much.